In 2019, a billionaire walked into Soho House in London. He'd just sold his tech company for $1.2 billion, cash. He wanted to become a member. They rejected him. Not because he couldn't afford it. Membership is $3,600 a year. He could have bought the entire building, but Soho House said no. And here's the part that made no sense. That same week, a 27-year-old freelance photographer got approved. She makes $40,000 a year. Her application? Accepted within 3 days. So what's happening here? Why does a private club refuse billionaires but accept broke creatives? Because Soho House doesn't want your money. What they want is something much harder to buy. I found this out myself. 2 years ago, I applied to Soho House in New York. I had the money. I had good references. I even had a connection, a friend who'd been a member for 5 years. I filled out the application, uploaded my photos, wrote my essay about why I wanted to join. 3 weeks later, rejected. No explanation, just a polite email. Unfortunately, we're unable to offer you membership at this time. So I started investigating. I talked to members. I talked to people who'd been rejected, and I realized Soho House isn't playing the same game as other luxury clubs. They're not filtering for wealth, they're filtering for cool. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why that's actually a more exclusive filter than money ever could be. Let me show you how Soho House actually works. Founded in 1995 by Nick Jones in London's Soho district, the original concept, a private club for people in creative industries, film, fashion, music, art, media, not bankers, not lawyers, not finance, creatives. Here's the application process. You go to their website, you fill out a form, basic info, name, age, profession. But then it gets interesting. They ask, what do you do? Not your job title, what do you do? They ask, why do you want to join Soho House? And they ask, who can recommend you? You need 2 current members to vouch for you. Then you upload photos, not professional headshots, photos of your work, your life, your taste. If you're a photographer, your portfolio. If you're a designer, your projects. If you're a writer, your published work. And here's what most people don't realize. They're not evaluating your income, they're evaluating your vibe. Let me give you an example. A private equity guy I know, let's call him David, applied to Soho House New York. He's worth $50 million. He put that he works in finance and investment. Rejected. His girlfriend, a freelance stylist who makes $35,000 a year, applied the same week. She put, I style editorial shoots for independent magazines. I'm interested in sustainable fashion and emerging designers. Approved within 5 days. What's the difference? David is rich, but he's not cool. His girlfriend is broke, but she's in. Now here's where it gets more complex. Soho House has 42 locations worldwide. London, New York, LA, Miami, Toronto, Barcelona, Istanbul, Mumbai. Membership at one gives you access to all of them, but not all memberships are equal. You can get Local House, just one location, about $1,800 a year, or Every House, access to all 42 locations worldwide, $3,600 a year. And here's what's interesting. If you're under 27, you get 50% off. So a 24-year-old filmmaker can join for $900 a year, while a 50-year-old billionaire might not get in at all. Why would a luxury club give massive discounts to young people who have no money? Because they're not optimizing for revenue, they're optimizing for energy. A 24-year-old filmmaker brings more cultural value than a 50-year-old hedge fund manager, even if the hedge fund manager has 100 times the money. And this creates a paradox. Most luxury is about excluding people who can't afford it, but Soho House is about excluding people who can afford it but don't fit the vibe. I saw this firsthand when I visited a friend at Soho House London, the rooftop bar. Late afternoon, I'm looking around. I see a woman in paint-stained jeans working on a laptop, artist probably, a guy with a camera bag editing photos on his phone, photographer, a table of 4 people arguing about a film script, filmmakers, and here's what I don't see. Suits, Rolex watches, loud displays of wealth. Everyone's dressed like they just rolled out of a creative studio, because they did. But here's the thing that bothered me. How do you prove you're creative enough? With money, it's easy. Show your bank statement. But cool, taste, creative credibility? How do you prove that? Here's what I learned from talking to people inside Soho House. There's a membership committee. They review every application manually. No algorithm, no automated approval. Real people looking at your photos, reading your essay, checking your references. And they're looking for specific things. First, what do you actually do? Not your job title, your actual work. If you say finance or consulting, even if you make millions, you're probably getting rejected. But if you say, I'm a photographer, or I design for independent magazines, or I make documentary films, you're in the right category. Film, fashion, art, music, design, writing, these are the fields they want. Second, is your work actually good? This is where those portfolio photos matter. They're not just checking if you say you're a photographer. They want to see your work. If you're a designer, show your designs. If you're a writer, show published pieces. Because anyone can claim to be creative, but they want proof. And third, this is the hardest one to define. Do you have taste? I know that sounds vague, but they're looking at how you present yourself, what projects you're working on, who your references are. There's this ineffable quality they're screening for. Do you seem like someone who gets it? And if you don't know what it is, you probably don't get it. I talked to a Soho House member, a music producer, who told me they rejected my friend who's a very successful tech entrepreneur. He makes millions, but his application was boring. He wrote about networking opportunities and business development. They don't want people who see Soho House as a networking tool. They want people who see it as a creative space. And here's the key, you can't buy your way in. I know people who've offered to pay $50,000 up front for a membership, rejected. Because if Soho House starts accepting people just because they're rich, the entire vibe collapses. Think about what happened to Equinox. Equinox used to be exclusive, a gym for fashion and media people in New York. Then it expanded, then it became accessible. Now every investment banker in Manhattan has an Equinox membership. And the original creative crowd? They left. They went to smaller, newer gyms that feel exclusive again. Soho House learned from this. They keep the filter tight, even if it means rejecting people with money, especially if it means rejecting people with money. But here's where it gets complicated, because Soho House is a business. They went public in 2021, they have shareholders, they need revenue, and that creates tension. How do you stay exclusive while also growing? I experienced this tension when I reapplied. After my first rejection, I waited a year. I built my portfolio. I got better references. I rewrote my essay to emphasize creative work over business. I reapplied. This time, approved. And you know what changed? Not my income, not my net worth. What changed was how I presented myself. I stopped talking about business strategy and consulting. I started talking about documentary filmmaking and storytelling. Same person, different framing. And suddenly, I was in. Because Soho House doesn't filter for what you have, they filter for what you are, or at least what you can convince them you are. So why does this work? Why is filtering for cool actually more exclusive than filtering for rich? Because wealth is objective, cool is subjective. Anyone can check your bank account. But who decides if you're cool? The people who are already inside. And that creates a system that's actually harder to game than traditional luxury. With Hermès, you can eventually buy your way in. Spend $20,000 on scarves, get the Birkin. With Rolex, you can build a relationship. Buy the watches they want to sell, get the one you want. But with Soho House, there's no clear path. You can't just spend more money. You have to be the right kind of person, or convince them you are. And here's why that's brilliant. It creates a different kind of scarcity. Not scarcity of supply, scarcity of identity. Think about it. There are millions of people who can afford a $3,600 per year membership. But how many of them are in a creative industry, producing work that's legitimately good, able to get 2 current members to vouch for them, cool enough to pass the vibe check, maybe 100,000 worldwide, maybe less. And that's the filter, not money, identity. But here's the uncomfortable part. Cool is just as arbitrary as rich. Who decides what's cool? The membership committee, which is made up of people who are already inside, which means cool is whatever the people in power say it is. I saw this when I finally became a member. I went to Soho House New York for the first time, and I realized everyone here looks the same. Not literally, but culturally. Everyone's in creative industries. Everyone's dressed in that expensive but looks effortless way. Everyone's talking about the same films, the same art shows, the same emerging designers. It's not more diverse than a Wall Street club. It's just a different kind of homogeneity. And that's when I understood. Soho House isn't rejecting rich people because they hate wealth. They're rejecting rich people because wealth is too easy to signal. Anyone with money can show up in a suit with a Rolex, but showing you're creative, that you have taste, that you're in the cultural conversation, that requires a different kind of capital, cultural capital. And cultural capital is harder to acquire than financial capital, because you can't just buy it, you have to be it, or at least you have to be good at performing it. So here's what Soho House actually sells. Not a space, not a network, not even exclusivity. They sell identity. The feeling that you're part of the creative class, that you're interesting, that you're cool, that you've been chosen not because you're rich, but because you're you. And those billionaires who get rejected, every single one of them makes the members who got in feel more special. Because if a billionaire can't get in, but you did, you must be pretty special. The paradox is this: Soho House claims to be anti-establishment, a club for creatives, not suits. But in practice, they've just created a different establishment, one where cultural capital matters more than financial capital. And cultural capital is just as exclusive, just as hard to get, just as designed to keep most people out. I'm still a member, I still go occasionally, but every time I walk in, I think about that billionaire who got rejected, and I think about the freelance photographer who got approved, and I realize we're all playing the same game, just with different currencies. In the latest videos, we've explored invisibility, rejection, artificial scarcity, and now identity filtering. The system keeps evolving. Subscribe to see what's next.